So why would this presentation be important to you? What is in this? What's the magic carrot for you? What's in this for you? Well, so that you don't have presentations that are like this. Really annoying. You know that hot glue that gets stuck on the bottom of your shoe when you go walking? And the rest of the walk, that's all you're thinking about. Nothing enjoyable about that process. However, what you do want to have happen is you do want to have a stickiness to your presentation. Because it's really not about what happens in the presentation. It's about what happens after the presentation. So you want to adjust your presentation to the frequency of your audience. And your job is to fine-tune the message so that they get it, not to blame them because they didn't get it, which is what we do most of the time. We do this, it's all about us, why we're great, why we're the best, why you need me. People love us. You're not the hero here, folks. If you're in any type of presentation, you are not the hero because it's not about you. If it was all about you, you could just speak to an empty room. You wouldn't need the audience. The selfish approach is this. This is a typical business approach. And if we shift the focus on the audience's needs, where the audience is, what they're thinking, and where we want to take them, where we want to offer opportunities, it becomes a different process. Place your audience at the center of the action. Make it about them. And your success is dependent upon them, not the other way around. As presenters, we're really thrilled when we finish our presentation and the audience claps and walks out. And we think we did a great job. How many of them applied it? How many of them actually made a behavior change? This part of the brain controls everything your audience does. Every person that comes into your presentation, this little part of the brain right here, the almond-shaped brain, the amygdala, controls them. I call it Amy G. Dalla, so I can remember how to spell it. Amy G. Dalla is not a male or a female, because I'm not putting this to either sex, okay? And what's interesting is, anybody in the room have an adverse reaction to this when I just threw it up? Yes. I just hijacked Amy over here. I did it that quick. So what happens is the brain goes into fight, flight, or freeze. When you dump information on an audience that is a trigger point for them, that is sensitive to them and polarizing, they go into this mode. We've all seen it. And the science says it takes 40 minutes for them to be able to think again. Literally, 40 minutes. Your spouse, your kids, your coworkers know how to push Amy's button. So here comes your first step here. Brain-friendly strategy number 1. Safety trumps learning. If your audience does not feel that it's a safe space, they are hijacked emotionally, and they cannot logically think for 40 minutes. Now what can happen is the brain can be hijacked again and again and again, and you can totally lose that audience. This is why a process of easing them into something is so critical, to get them in a safe place so that they can have an adult conversation about a delicate, difficult issue. And we do this from time to time with audiences. We start calling on people, asking them to answer something when we don't have a relationship with them or we don't know them very well, and Amy gets hijacked. So brain-friendly strategy number 2. This is what's really interesting. Talking trumps listening. The real question is, how long is the audience attention span? The real question. 10 years ago, it used to be 20 minutes. Now, it's 10. Here is the 10-minute rule. This is actually a session of 60 minutes long. It says 50 to 60. And with MRI scans on people's brains, the first 10 minutes, the audience is totally there. Well, sort of. They start out right there, and then they go down within the 10 minutes, and they flatline. They start thinking about all the emails they need to do, the work that's on the table, back in the office, who's picking up Sue tonight after school, what are we having for dinner? And it continues until the presenter says, and in summary, It's really true. Or my final points are, and the brain goes whoop, right back up. And it's completely lost in this whole process. If you just do 10 minutes and stop and let the audience discuss and think or write for 2 minutes, it works. 10 minutes, 2 minutes. 2 minutes is plenty. And if you're doing a 30-minute presentation, can you give up 6 minutes to let the audience process it? Why not? So brain-friendly strategy number 3, chunking content trumps information dumps. Chunk your content into 10-minute segments. Take your points and put it into a 10-minute segment. Make 1 point per 10 minutes. I keep referring to Dr. John Medina. He's got a book out called Brain Rules. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list. He also has Brain Rules for Babies, the truth about what babies' brains actually do and don't do. And it's interesting because he does 60-minute lectures. Every 10 minutes, he changes. And he also throws in this 2-minute process in between these. His students love him. He's been nominated Teacher of the Year, I forget how many times, at Seattle University. Brain-friendly strategy number 4, meaning trumps content. Meaning trumps content. If it doesn't mean anything to your audience, you've got a lost cause. They want to know the meaning of what this means to them. How's this going to impact them? So people rarely act by reason alone. You need to tap into their beliefs in order to persuade. You need a small thorn, sharper than fact, to prick their hearts in order to persuade. That thorn is emotion. If 2 products have the same features, the one that has emotional appeal gets chosen. Brain-friendly strategy number 5, emotions trump facts. Now, this one's, you know this already. This one's tough. Take a look at that. If I ask you to memorize that, and I gave you 60 seconds, could you do it? Think about it. If I did this. Oh! The brain pays attention to patterns. Brain-friendly strategy number 6, patterns trump new information. My last one. Take a look at that. Take a look at that. Now, you guys laugh, and some of you are guilty of this. Now, do you really think the audience is looking at that? Take a look at that, and take a look at that. You can feel the difference. You can see the difference. You know which one connects with you right off the bat. That does. And so does that. Brain-friendly strategy number 7, images trump words. Images trump words. Now, here's where I'll lower the boom. There's now over 400 and some empirical scientific studies that show there's no such thing as learning styles. It is a myth that we have all bought into because our own personal experiences align with it. But when they actually test it out through a scientific process, it doesn't exist. And in the hierarchy of our senses, our vision trumps everything else. Even people who are visually impaired, when they read Braille, it is the image processors of their brain that light up as they're reading Braille. If you don't believe me on this, think about this. When you dream at night, do you dream in words or pictures? We are image-driven people. This is why if you're not going to use some type of visuals, help them create a mental image that they can hook it to. I call it a narraphor, a narrative metaphor. Give them a narrative metaphor, if you're not going to use any visuals, that they can hook what you're talking about to and remember it. So recognition doubles with pictures. 80% of your brain's processing power is dedicated to processing visuals, not words. And just think about this. Let me backtrack for a second. You cannot physically give your attention to thinking and physically give your attention to listening at the same time. It is impossible to do. You're either listening or you're thinking. Brain-friendly strategy number 1, safety trumps. Number 2, talking trumps. Number 3, chunking content trumps. Number 4, meaning trumps. Number 5, emotions trump. Number 6, patterns trump. Number 7, images trump words. So, now you have to figure out what you're going to do with this, if anything. And I would also make this suggestion. Test it. Don't change all your presentations if you doubt this. Test it. Play with it. And if you're going to test it, don't just test it once. Test it twice. Give yourself 2 times to apply it so that you can make tweaks to it when it didn't work for you the first time. Analyze it. And I'm not real sure why, as adults, we don't try this. Well, this didn't seem to work. We think of an audience as listening, sitting forward, facing us with a smile on their face and nodding their head, that they're getting it. They're not. You never controlled the audience's brains. We've become very good camouflaged listeners.